Alright, welcome back to the sixth lesson of this polynomial unit. We are gonna working on, again, more factoring. But last time we worked on factoring simple trinomials. Today we're gonna be looking at factoring complex trinomials. Recall, simple trinomials are simply trinomials that start with 1x squared, like this. Something like that. That's a simple trinomial. Now, the difference between simple trinomial and complex trinomial is that the complex trinomial, the leading coefficient is no longer just 1. So this is simple trinomial. This is simple. Now, complex is going to be like 2x squared plus 4x minus 5. Negative 5x squared minus 3x plus 1, things like that. These are complex trinomial because the leading coefficient is not a 1. This is a 1, so that's a simple trinomial. You can see a picture here. If you're in my class, we will have a, well, happy Factor Friday, everyone. We'll have a little celebration of Factor Friday later on. So sit tight, we'll celebrate, and we'll have some fun that day, okay? Anyways, so hopefully we will get there, but we all need to do some work before that, of course. Okay, so here are some warm-up questions for you to do. They are just factoring simple trinomials, so I'll let you do that. Warm-up number 1 and number 2, okay, and then you can look at number 3 and see if you can figure out what the mistake was. Okay, so pause the video and give it a try. Okay, so this one, hopefully, quickly, if you recall, these are simple trinomials, so essentially looking for two numbers multiplied to the last term and add to the coefficient of the middle term, which is going to be 2 and 2. 2 times 2 is 2, and 2 plus 2 is 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. So that is just going to be x plus 2 squared, x plus 2 times x plus 2, or we can rewrite that as x plus 2 squared. Similarly, simple trinomial, so looking for two numbers, multiply to the last term, which is 24, and add to negative 10, the coefficient of middle term. They should be negative 4 and negative 6, so x minus 6 times x minus 4. Okay, so that's the first two examples. I don't know why I label them as AC, but it's okay. The next two here, similarly, but it says we need to factor out the common factor first, okay? So here you can see the common factor is a 3. So we are going to factor out the common factor of 3. So that means, recall, divide everything by 3. And now you can see, well, that's just x squared plus 4x plus 4. That's what we just did. So quickly, this is just going to be x plus 2 squared, because that's exactly what we have here. So I'm just going to take the result and move it down here. Okay, now quickly though, let me just review with you that factoring is just the opposite of expansion, right? So if you were to expand x plus 2 squared, that is just x plus 2 times x plus 2. And this means if you expand, that's x times x squared, x times 2, it's 2x, 2 times x, and finally 2 times 2. And if you combine like terms, you get x squared plus 4x plus 4. And remember, this should be the same as your original trinomial, right? Because that's what it means to factor, is to make it simpler. And when you expand it, you should get the original expression. Okay, anyways, that was just a quick review of what it means. Here, for part C, the common factor here, clearly for the 2, 20, and 48, 2 is a common factor. That's an x cubed, x squared, and x. So we can factor out one single x out of each term. And remember, after we found the common factor, we then just divide the original expression by our common factor of 2x. And that's going to be x squared, and then minus 10x plus 24. And that is just what we had here again. So then I'm just going to take the result from here and move it down. So our final answer is going to be 2x times x minus 6 times x minus 4. And again, if you multiply this out, this is exactly what you should get. Okay, but I will skip that step right now. Number 3 here is as a student factor the x cubed minus 5x squared minus 14x into x minus 7 and x plus 2. What was the mistake? Well, clearly there's the x cubed, that's x squared, and there's an x. So the mistake was x. The common factor x was not factored out. Okay, so make sure you take out the common factor first, then you do, you look for two numbers, multiply to -14 and add to -5. Because -7 and 2 clearly are the two numbers, but x was not factored out, and therefore this is not correct. Okay, so that's what we did last time, factoring simple trinomials. Now we are going to look at how we can factor complex trinomials. It's actually quite similar to how we factor a simple trinomial, but there are two extra steps. Okay, two extra steps. Again, the difference here that this is a complex trinomial because the leading coefficient is not a 1, it's actually a 6. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to take the first number and we're going to multiply by the last number, the constant term. Okay, so leading coefficient times the constant. So 6 times -3, 6 times -3 gives us -18. So recall last time we did, or for factoring our simple trinomials, we are looking for two numbers multiply to the constant term. However, because the leading coefficient is not a 6, it's not a 1, it's a 6, so we are going to multiply these two, and we are gonna look for two numbers that multiply to -18. Again, -18 came from the leading coefficient times the constant, and these two numbers will still have to add to the the coefficient of the middle term, which is 7. Okay, so again, this time we are not looking for two numbers that multiply to the constant. Rather, we're looking for two numbers multiplied to the product of the leading coefficient and the constant. In this case, is -18. And we still look for, those two numbers still need to add to the coefficient for the middle term, which is 7. So in this case, the two numbers are 9 and -2. Okay, so these are the two numbers. Okay, now it's not just like, in the previous example, then we have our answer as x plus 9 and x minus 2. However, this is not going to work because you can see clearly x times x is not 6x squared. Okay, so that's not going to work. Okay, that's not going to work. Instead, we're going to use the decomposition method to factor this here. Okay, so what that means is we're going to break the middle term of 7x, okay, again, the middle term of 7x into 9x minus 2x. And where do we get a 9x minus 2x from? That's exactly what these two numbers are. Okay, so 9x minus 2x gives you the 7x right there in the middle. Minus 3 is still minus 3. Okay, that doesn't change. But you can see we decompose the middle term of 7 into 9x minus 2x. Now, this is where we're going to use the skill that we learned earlier in the chapter, where we're going to factor by grouping now. Okay, so recall, we can split this into two groups, okay, namely the first two terms and the last two terms. We can actually factor out 3x for the first two terms. Okay, that's the greatest common factor. And if you factor out 3x, you should get 2x plus 3. And you're going to do the same thing for the last two terms. Now notice how we have -2x minus 3. There's no common factor here. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep the minus sign. Now because there's no common factor, we're going to write down a 1. Okay? Because at the end of the day, we can always divide it by negative, well, in this case, -1. But we can always divide it by 1, right? So that's -2x divided by -1, which is positive 2x. That's -3 divided by -1. That's also, well, that's positive 3. Again, the key for factoring by grouping is that these two brackets, must be the same. Okay, if they are not the same, that means we made a mistake. And because they are the same, so they are the common factor. Okay, we can actually take them out. Okay, we can factor them out, and now we can simply go 3x times 2x minus 3x times 2x plus 3 divided by 2x plus 3. So if you factor that out, you end up with 3x. -1 times 2x plus 3 divided by 2x plus 3, that leaves us with just the -1. And that is the answer. Okay, because this is the first time we're doing decomposition method, I am gonna check. Okay, so recall to check. we can simply expand this by multiplying out, right? We can FOIL. 2x times 3x is 6x squared. 2x times -1 is -2x. 3 times 3x is 9x. 3 times -1 is -3. We can combine the middle terms, 6x squared plus 7x minus 3. As you can see, that is the same as that. So we did it right. Okay, so this is only one of the methods that you can use to factor. You may learn different methods from elsewhere, and that is perfectly okay as long as you show your work. I'm perfectly fine with different methods that you want to use. There's the AC method, there is the crisscross method, and there's the guess and check method. For Math 10, I believe decomposition is a good method for you to use. That's how I learned it when I was in high school. Right now, I don't use decomposition anymore, but I think it's a very nice method to use for you as the first time factoring complex trinomials. Okay, I think it's a good method for you. If you're interested in other methods, I can show you. So just come talk to me, okay? But I don't want to show you too many methods right now to confuse you. I think it's good to have one method, master that, and then we can, if you're interested in other methods, and I can definitely show you. Okay, I'll show you another example before I let you try the third one. So here, same thing. This is a complex trinomial. So we're going to multiply the 4 with the 9. So these two numbers that we're looking for must multiply to 36. Okay, again, 36 came from 4 times 9. Okay, that is the leading coefficient times the constant. And then these two numbers must add up to 37. And hopefully you can see the two numbers are 1 and 36. Okay, they multiply to 36 and they add to 36. Now you might ask, does it matter if I write plus 1x first and then plus 36x, or does it matter if I write plus 36x first and then plus 1x? It turns out it does not really matter, okay? And again, the plus 1 plus 36x came from the two numbers we got, okay? And that is how we're going to break 37 into two terms, okay? That's how we're going to decompose it. All right, and then we're going to factor by grouping after the first step. Okay, we're going to break the 37, the middle terms, into two terms, and then we're going to factor by grouping, so the first two and the last two. For the first two terms, the common factor is x. That is the only thing that goes into both terms. Once you factor the x out, you should get 4x plus 1. For the last two terms, you can actually factor out the 9. And if you divide these two terms by 9, you should also get 4x plus 1. Again, here's the checkpoint. Both of these are 4x plus 1. That means we did it right. So then we factor out the common factor of 4x plus 1 because we have two terms and both of them have 4x plus 1. And if you factor it out from the first term, you should get x. If you factor 4x plus 1 out of the second term, you should get positive 9. And that's the answer. Okay, so I will let you try the third one here. Remember, you should always keep your x squared term positive. So I'll give you a little bit of a hint. Your first step should be factoring out -1, okay? So why don't you try, actually, you know what? Try both of these, okay? So, and I'll show you both of these in a second. So go ahead, pause the video and give them a try. Okay, hopefully you finished both of these. I'm going to first factor out the -1. So then I get positive 3x squared plus x and then minus 4. Okay, 3 times -4 is -12. So I'm looking for two numbers multiplied to -12. Again, that came from 3 times -4. And these two numbers must add up to positive 1. So the right combination should be 4 times -3. And that's how I am going to break the positive 1 into plus 4x and then minus 3x. Again, it doesn't matter. You could write -3x plus 4x, and that's fine. Keep in mind, you must keep the -1 with you every single step, okay? Otherwise, you're wrong. Okay, now we're going to factor by grouping. So for -1, I'm going to keep it out there. Here, I'm going to put a square bracket now, okay? We can take out the common factor of x, and then you should end up with 3x plus 4. Here, there's nothing that goes into any of those terms, so I'm just going to write, remember, nothing goes in, that means you're going to write down 1, okay? Because it's negative sign, so I'm going to keep the sign negative, and divide those two terms by -1, you should get 3x plus 4 as well. And clearly, these two terms are the same, or these two brackets are the same, and therefore we did it right. So -1 is still there. If you factor 3x plus 4 out, you should end up with x minus 1. And that is your final answer. Okay. Okay, so this next one here, again, you should always factor out the common factor, right? There is a common factor of 2, so that should be your first step. So divide everything by 2. That's what it should get. Now I'm going to multiply 3 with -4. Oh, actually, I don't need to continue anymore because this is exactly what we have here. So I'm just going to take the result from here, except the -1, right? Because we don't need the -1, and I'm just going to copy it down right here. So 2 times 3x plus 4 and x minus 1. Okay. But, I mean, I guess I was just trying to show you, you should always factor out the common factor. Okay. All right. Here is the last question. It says, on an exam, Mr. H factored 4x squared plus 2x minus 2 as 2x minus 1, 2x plus 2 times 2x plus 2. Even though Mr. H carefully checked that the answer was correct, he did not get full marks. Okay, so what I mean by that is he actually expanded. So he did this. That's 4x squared. 2x times 1 is negative. 2x times. Oh, well, what? Oh, that's a plus 2. Okay, no wonder I was like, what the heck? Okay, never mind. Okay, this was 2x plus 2. Let me fix this quickly here. 2x plus 2. So that will be 4x. And then this is -2x, and that's -2. So he got 4x squared plus 2x minus 2. And you can see this is the same as that. But it says that he did not get full marks. What is wrong? Okay, so what is wrong? Well, you can see this is 4x squared plus 2x minus 2. So right away, you can see there is a common factor of positive 2. And that's what he did not do. Okay, and that's why he got marks deducted. Okay, so let's see what it should be as our answer. Okay, let's actually finish it because, you know, extra practice doesn't hurt. 2 times -1 is -2. So we're looking for two numbers multiplied to -2. And these two same numbers should add to positive 1. Okay, so again, plus x means plus 1x, right? So the coefficient is 1. That will be 2 times -1. Okay, so I can rewrite this as 2x squared plus 2x minus 1x, or just minus x and then minus 1. We can then factor by grouping. Here's the first two terms. Here's the last two terms. Factor out the 2. And, or actually, not just 2. We can factor out 2x. And if you factor out 2x, you should get x plus 1, right? And for the last two terms, again, there's nothing that goes into both -x and -1. So we're just going to write down minus sign. Okay, that's taken from there. And a 1. And if you divide -x by -1, that's positive x. -1 divided by -1, that's positive 1. And you can see again, these two set of brackets are the same. And therefore, your final answer should be 2 times factor out the common factor of x plus 1. You should then end up with 2x minus 1. Notice how you just always end up with the remaining terms there. And that is your final answer instead of that. Okay, I mean, you can see here, that's 2x plus 2. You can actually factor a 2 out of that bracket. And if you do that, you can actually get exactly the same answer as what I have here. Okay, so that's the factoring of complex trinomial. So just gotta make sure that you differentiate when you look at the question, right? You gotta differentiate, is this a simple trinomial or is this a complex trinomial? Obviously, when it starts with a complex trinomial, you could factor out the coefficient, and make it a simple trinomial. Sometimes that's possible, but if not, you just have to use the method that I just showed you right now. Okay, but remember, always, always, always factor out common factor first, and then factor your trinomials. Okay, so that is it for this lesson. You can do some practice, and hopefully you can master the skills of factoring, and so we can have a lot of fun during Factor Friday celebration. Okay, that's it. Good luck. Let me know if you have any questions.